Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I'm your host, Nick. Today, you're listening to episode 60 of Talking Blue. 60 episodes. Thank you guys so much for everything that you do for me. Today, we're going to preview the Dodgers and the Phillies series, which will start tonight. Dodgers-Phillies, highly anticipated series, a lot on the line for both teams, especially the Dodgers. So we're going to get into all that. I have a ton of information for you guys to get you prepared, to break down the Phillies, kind of let you know what the Phillies are about, what they do on the mound and the bullpen, offensively, all that. How do they match up with the Dodgers? How do the Dodgers match up with them? All that stuff. So as always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talking Blue Nick, and you can subscribe to our Reddit at competitive-week8715. So, like I said, the Dodgers are taking on the Phillies. There's a lot at stake, of course. The Dodgers come into the series 4.5 games back of the 2 seed. Of course, now, the way that they do the playoffs, the 1 and 2 highest records, the 1 and 2 seeds in Major League Baseball, in both leagues, get a bye from the first round, and they go right into the division series. So there's a lot at stake. Like I said, Dodgers are 4.5 back of the Phillies. They play a 3-game set. Tonight is game 1. If the Dodgers were able to sweep that series, obviously they would be 1.5 game back. Kind of broke this down in my previous pod. If the Dodgers and the Phillies tied both the season series and in the standings. So right now the Phillies won the first series. This was all the way back in April. They won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. So if the Dodgers take 2 out of 3 in this series, obviously that would mean they're split 3-3. They split the season series. If at that point, if the Dodgers are able to catch the Phillies and they finish the season with the exact same record, then it would go, the 2 seed would go to the team who has the better in-division record, which probably would be the Dodgers because they have the best in-record division in baseball. Phillies are not far behind them, but the Dodgers have played really well against teams in division. If the Dodgers are able to sweep the series or just take 2 out of 3, then that kind of helps them out in the long run if they're able to just tie the Phillies. And just like the Dodgers, they've had their fair share of injuries, really good pitching staff, and right now they're without their actual ace, Zach Wheeler. He went down with a blood clot, but even without Zach Wheeler, they still have a very good rotation. So I'm going to break down all of that. So let's get right into it. The Phillies are, of course, in first place in the National League East. They have the second best record in the National League. Offensively, the Phillies are second in batting average, third in on-base percentage, and sixth in slugging percentage. They have a pretty aggressive lineup. They are 12th in Major League Baseball in walk percentage, but they are third in first pitch swing percentage, fourth overall in swing percentage, and they have the third highest chase rate. So I'll get into their lineup a little bit, but they're somewhat of a top-heavy lineup. So, of course, right now they are without Trey Turner and Alec Bohm. Trey Turner was having a really good year before he went down. But if you look at their lineup right now, it's a little bit top-heavy. So Harrison Bader, who they got from the Twins, ever since he's come over, he's been really good. He's hitting well over 300 in the 38 games he's played for them. Then, of course, Kyle Schwarber, other than Shohei Ohtani, is the second best DH in the game, one of the best hitters in the game. He hits second. He already has over 50 home runs. Then in the 3 spot, they have Bryce Harper, who's having another really good year, 26 home runs, weighted runs created plus of 133. So once again, kind of having like a similar year to Freddie Freeman. He just hits for a little bit more power. But then after that, their lineup is a bit top-heavy. JT Realmuto is only a league average hitter. Brandon Marsh, who's in the 5th slot, but only really faces right-handed pitching. He has a 118 weighted runs created plus, but like I said, he only faces right-handed pitching, so he won't be in there against Snell on Wednesday. But then after that, Max Kepler, Nick Castellanos, their corner outfielders, well below league average. Bryson Stott has only been a league average hitter. Same thing with Otto Kemp, who is in third base for Alec Bohm. although he hits lefties really pretty well. And then lastly, Edmundo Sosa, who plays short for them in absence of Trey Turner. Again, below league average. So a little bit of a top-heavy lineup. Bader's been good. Schwarber and Harper are two of the best hitters in the game. After that, there is a little bit of a drop-off. So they don't have necessarily a super scary lineup. What the Phillies are definitely built on is their pitching. On the pitching side, they have the 7th best team ERA in baseball, and they have the best FIP, the number 1 FIP in all of baseball, fielding independent pitching. They are elite at combining strikeouts and limiting walks. So they have the 2nd most strikeouts in all of baseball, and they have the 2nd least amount of walks allowed. So they get a ton of strikeouts, and they don't allow walks. That is a really important combination, because when you strike hitters out and you don't allow walks, you're going to be preventing a lot of runs. Also have the 2nd highest chase percentage as a staff, so they do get a lot of swings and misses out of the zone, which is interesting considering that they're a team that doesn't walk a lot of hitters. So one of those teams that probably makes the opposing lineup get really aggressive, and then you kind of chase. A lot of their pitchers are very similar, left-handed pitchers, change-ups, sinker ballers. One of the rare weaknesses of this team is that they are 22nd in bullpen ERA in all of Major League Baseball. Now, it has been better since the trade deadline, of course. They acquired Johan Duran from the Twins, one of the best closers in the game. He's been really good for them. Since about August 1st, they're still about middle of the pack in bullpen ERA. I think they're like 13th in ERA since August 1st. So it's not like they jumped way up. They still kind of have a weak bullpen. Really good pitching teams, especially on the starting staff. A little bit of a top-heavy lineup, not so good of a bullpen. So let's go ahead and get right into the matchups. So if you guys don't remember the way I do a lot of these preview series, I'm going to break down each game, the pitching matchup, how the Dodgers lineup fares against that pitcher for the other team. In this case, it's the Phillies, and vice versa, how the Phillies lineup will match up against the Dodgers pitcher. I'll give some home run predictions. I'm going to throw out numbers, why I think certain guys can go deep and stuff like that. I dived into the individual pitch mix of each pitcher, which hitter matches up well, which hitters are good against certain pitches, all that stuff. I'm going to give you rankings for how the Dodgers are league-wise against pitches in all of baseball, like how good are they against four-seam fastballs, sliders, curveballs, that kind of stuff. Game 1 will be Emmett Sheehan against Ranger Suarez. So again, for you guys, for those of you who don't know, the Phillies have a good starting staff, 3 lefties. So it's kind of crazy that they lost Zach Wheeler, who probably is definitely a top 5 pitcher in the game, and this year, behind Skeens and Skubal, is probably the 3rd best pitcher in the game. They lose him for the remaining of the year, and they still have 3 elite pitchers. All of them are left-handed, so that's pretty unique. So this is how they're going to throw it out there in a postseason series. Not necessarily in this order. It would probably go Christopher Sanchez 1, Ranger Suarez 2, and then Jesus Luzardo 3. So in this game, Emmett Sheehan versus Ranger Suarez. Of the 3 lefties they have, he is the one that gets the least amount of strikeouts. So quickly, some information on Ranger Suarez. Like I said, he's a sinker baller and 143 innings pitched this year. Only 140 strikeouts, but he does have a 2.77 ERA. He is one of the best pitchers in the game at limiting hard hit percentage and barrels, as well as not allowing walks. So a very classic kind of really good left-handed pitcher. Sinker baller, doesn't give up a lot of home runs, if any. Doesn't give up a lot of hard hit balls. Doesn't give up a lot of fly balls. He keeps the ball on the ground. Now, again, doesn't necessarily get a lot of strikeouts or whiffs, but very good sinker, changeup, cutter, curveball. He kind of has a big pitch mix. Now, when you dive into his individual pitches, the one hittable pitch that he has is that sinker because it has a 300 batting average against. His changeup is one of the best in the game, 201 batting average against. His cutter, I should say, is a little bit more hittable, 274 batting average, but then he has a very good curveball as well, 178 batting average. 2 fastballs are going to be the pitches that the Dodgers are going to be looking to hit. The changeup and the curveball are what they're going to be, trying to avoid, basically. When you look at some of the pitches the Dodgers do well against, they're 2nd best in all of Major League Baseball against four-seam fastballs. And against sinkers, they're 10th. One of the only pitches they really struggle with are cutters and curveballs. That's a pitcher that Suarez does feature. The Dodgers, against left-handed pitching, they're 4th in all of Major League Baseball in OPS. So they do hit lefties fairly well. Guys like Tommy Edman, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith, who won't be in there, of course. Those are all guys that have generally done very well against lefties throughout their career in recent years. Same with Mookie Betts. Miguel Rojas is usually a left-handed platoon hitter. So Ranger Suarez is actually much better against lefties, so he's not a reverse splits guy or anything like that. 251 righties hit him, and then 200 against lefties. Like I said, very good changeup, very good curveball, not so much his sinker and his cutter. Ranger Suarez in his career has a 3.42 ERA against the Dodgers, so he's pitched well against them in his career. But one guy on the Dodgers, he's not the only guy, but one of the guys who hits him the best is Mookie Betts. He has a 4.44 batting average against Suarez in his career with 2 home runs. Based on his pitch mix, really this entire series, you're going to be looking for the right-handed hitters to have success. Guys like Mookie Betts, guys like Teoscar, guys like Tommy Edman. Same thing with Andy Paez. Maybe we'll see Kike Hernandez, Alex Call, and Miguel Rojas all in there, and they will have success. Of course, guys like Freddie and Shohei aren't guys who struggle against left-handed pitching, but both naturally are better against righties. So, quickly, I'll give a home run prediction. So just for those of you who might be new, my home run predictions are not home run picks just for the game. I'm trying to predict this player to go deep off of this pitcher. In this case, it's Ranger Suarez. So if I picked, Will Smith and he went deep in this game in the 7th inning off of another pitcher, I don't take credit for that. I'm trying to get 2 guys to go deep off of Ranger Suarez based off of all the numbers and all the pitches that he throws and how it matches up. So in this game, I'm picking Mookie Betts and I'm picking Tommy Edman to go deep against Ranger Suarez. Again, they are both guys who hit better against left-handed pitching. Mookie Betts hits 320 against four-seam fastballs. That's one of the best in the game. Against sinkers, he hits 303, so he's very good against the sinker. And then Tommy Edman, another guy who hits sinkers well, he hits 275 versus sinkers, but it's expected batting average of 331. So in terms of the quality of contact, he hits very well against sinkers. Similar to last year, Tommy Edman came off the IL and hit really well at the month of September, especially against some lefties. If you remember that Cubs series last year, it was a Cubs series at home, mid-September. He faced a lot of lefties. Shota Imanaga, there were some other guys. He took him deep, so I really think Tommy Edman's going to leave his mark on this series, kind of like he did a year ago. So those are my 2 guys that I think are going deep. Ranger Suarez, like I said, he's going to be tough. He's not going to be striking out a ton of Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to really need to try to hit the ball in the air off of him, try to get the ball in the air. If they do get some base runners, Suarez is going to really try to get you to ground into a double play, weak contact, and stuff like that. So they really need to try to hit a lot of line drives and hit the ball in the air, try to get the ball up, because when you have a sinker baller, he's going to pitch down in the zone, use his changeup. So he's a very good pitcher, one of the best pitchers in the game that doesn't necessarily get a lot of strikeouts, but he's still a really, really good pitcher. Nobody on the Phillies has faced Emmett Sheehan, so he does have that going for him, the element of surprise. Nobody has faced him. When you dive into Emmett Sheehan, some of his best pitchers, was always known as a guy who has an electric fastball, which he does, but he has an expected batting average of 291 on his four-seam fastball. He actually, so far in his young career, especially this year, has been really good with his breaking stuff, his non-fastballs. His slider has a 181 batting average against, and his changeup has a 167 batting average against. Like I said, also like the Dodgers, they're a pretty good fastball hitting team. Against the slider, number 1 team in the game against the slider, they have the highest OPS, and then against changeups, they are second. So they're not necessarily a great matchup for Emmett Sheehan. And as well, against right-handed pitching, they have the 3rd highest OPS in the game. Emmett Sheehan doesn't have a lot of things that kind of match up well against the Phillies. Now, I still like Emmett Sheehan. He's got an electric fastball that plays upstairs. He also is a little bit of a reverse splits guy, where righties hit him 215, but then lefties hit him 197. That's a lot because of his really good changeup that he throws. I do like Emmett Sheehan against the Phillies, but of the 3 pitchers the Dodgers are going to be throwing out there, he's the one that kind of scares me the most because of his pitch mix, because of the pitches that the Phillies hit well, stuff like that. But he's been very good as of late in the months of August and September. He's been really good, getting a ton of whiffs. So I do think that he's going to be able to, get a couple strikeouts, get a couple swings and misses. But it's going to be a tough matchup against the Phillies because they have some guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark, as well as some guys who will put the ball in play. They're very aggressive. Mitch Sheehan does get a ton of chase. He's in the 92nd percentile in chase percentage. 33% chase rate is a very high chase rate. And the Phillies are a team that does chase a lot. So if he can have the slider and the changeup kind of like dipping out of the zone, those good pitches that stay in the strike zone for a long time, but then fade out of the strike zone to get some chases, that's going to help Mitch Sheehan a lot. So hopefully he has that kind of stuff today. So we will see what happens there. I don't necessarily love the Mitch Sheehan matchup, but of course I'm never going to doubt Sheehan. I think he's a really good young pitcher. So we'll see what happens there. Let's go ahead and now let's go to Game 2. Game 2 is going to be a fun one. Shohei Ohtani will be on the mound for the Dodgers. Christopher Sanchez will be on the mound for the Phillies. One of the better pitchers in the game. He is probably the third best left-handed pitcher in the game behind Skubal and Garrett Crochet. In 182 innings pitched this year, he's got a 2.57 ERA. And something that he hasn't necessarily always done throughout his career is get strikeouts. In 182 innings pitched this year, he's got 192 strikeouts. So he's not a crazy strikeout pitcher, but he's kind of more always been a guy like Ranger Suarez who keeps the ball on the ground and doesn't walk hitters. Now he's actually added more strikeouts. This year he's in the 81st percentile in whiff percentage, 75th percentile in K percentage. So again, he isn't of the elite when it comes to strikeouts, but a guy who limits hard hit contact, fly balls, home runs. He keeps the ball on the ground, and he doesn't allow walks. The fact that he's now added a little bit more strikeouts has made him go from a very solid pitcher to one of the better pitchers in the game. So Christopher Sanchez, really, really good pitcher. So interesting guy who only throws 3 pitches: sinker, changeup, slider. Doesn't throw a four-seamer, doesn't throw a cutter, doesn't throw a curveball, nothing like that. It's just 3 pitches. And the pitches that make him very good are the changeup especially and his slider. His sinker isn't necessarily that great. It's got a 282 batting average against and has a very low whiff percentage, 14%. So he gets absolutely no whiffs on the sinker, and it isn't his best pitch. Now his changeup is one of the better pitchers in the game because it has a 168 batting average against and a 44 whiff percentage. So it has an incredibly low batting average, not giving up any hits on that changeup, and he gets a lot of whiffs on it. As well as the slider, 255 batting average against, 31% whiff rate. So his slider and his changeup are very, very elite. If you look at Baseball Savant, off-speed run value, which is just, it ranks your pitches and your off-speed pitches and how valuable are they in the league, 99th percentile. So his changeup especially is very, very nasty, and he's going to be a very tough pitcher for the Dodgers to face. Now, like I said again, Dodgers are 4th in Major League Baseball in OPS versus left-handed pitching. They do have a good amount of guys who are good against sinkers and changeups. Christopher Sanchez in his career against the Dodgers, 3.57 ERA. Now, the Dodgers did see him this year. That was all the way back in April, and he gave up 4 earned runs against the Dodgers. So Teoscar Hernandez, he has a 5.56 batting average against Sanchez with 2 career home runs. Righties hit him 238, lefties hit him 207. Imagine he's the kind of guy who will throw that changeup left on left, which is something you don't often see. But because the changeup is so good, and because he's a left-handed pitcher who uses that pitch a lot, I would imagine that he uses that a lot against lefties, and he only has 3 pitches. Now, there are guys who have had success against him, like Alex Call, who has faced him a lot in the National League East. So in this game, my 2 home run picks, I am taking Teoscar Hernandez, and I'm actually going to take Freddie Freeman. So Teoscar Hernandez, pretty easy. He has an OPS well above 800 against lefties. Against four-seam fastballs, which of course Sanchez doesn't throw, he hits 315, but against sinkers, 276, and against changeups, he hits 333. So Teoscar's a good fastball hitter who hits pretty well against sinkers and obviously lefties, and he is a pitcher. He's a guy that can hit changeups really well. Now, Freddie Freeman, of course, he's left on left. It's 295 against sinkers, and he has an expected batting average of 334 against sinkers. So he really crushes sinkers. And against changeups, 279. That's pretty good as well. I don't love the left on left and the slider because Freddie's not as well doesn't hit as well against sliders, but he will definitely see some sinkers from Sanchez. He's not just going to throw them all changeups and sliders. He will see a sinker. I'm thinking maybe he leaves one, in, and Freddie can turn on it and hit it out. Teoscar, kind of the same thing. I think maybe he leaves a mistake changeup up and Teoscar hits it out. But again, guys like Tommy Edman, maybe Kike will be in there. Alex Call will definitely be in there because he's had some success against him. And then Miguel Rojas as well. Miguel Rojas is much better against lefties, and he hits 345 against sinkers. He's also a pretty good matchup, so he should surely be in there as well. Now, against Shohei Ohtani, there are only 4 current Phillies who have a combined 9 plate appearances against Shohei on the mound. I think it's Harrison Bader, Max Kepler, Nick Castellanos, and then someone else on the team. Not really many guys have faced Shohei on the mound. Obviously, we know he came back from Tommy John this year, and he's kind of been limited at pitching throughout his career. Now, Shohei, when you dive into some of his numbers and stuff like that, Shohei has actually been really bad against right-handed hitters, but dominant against left-handed hitters. So extreme reverse splits. 306 against righties, 167 against lefties. A lot of that is because his off-speed stuff and his breaking balls have been dominant in 2025. His sweeper has an expected batting average of 183 with a 41% whiff rate. Then you go into his slider, which again he will throw to lefties, 174 batting average, 47% whiff rate. And then the curveball that he has added as of late has a 0 batting average against and a 58% whiff rate. That's one of the best curveballs in the game. When you dive into the numbers on the Phillies, the worst pitch they hit against is the curveball. They are 25th in Major League Baseball in OPS against curveballs. So they are one of the worst teams in the game against curveballs. That is why I like Shohei Ohtani, and then we'll get into Blake Snell as well, who throws a really good curveball. Shohei's best pitch, now he hasn't thrown it a ton because he kind of always changes up his pitch mix. The last few starts, he's incorporated the curveball more. I think he's going to do the same thing against the Phillies. He's going to use that pitch a lot, and I think it's going to be successful for him. They don't have really good numbers against that pitch. I found it interesting that he's been much better against lefties. That will help him against Schwarber and Harper, who are their two best hitters. So we'll see how long Shohei will go. He hasn't pitched since last Friday against the Baltimore Orioles. We'll see if they try to get him to go through 5 again. But I do like the matchup of him against the Phillies. And but he probably, I would imagine he's not going to be out there too long. So I gave you my home run picks. I got Teoscar and Freddie. Let's go ahead now and go to Game 3. So Game 3 will be Blake Snell versus Jesus Luzardo. Left-on-left matchup. Blake Snell has been super hot as of late. Came off probably his best pitching performance as a Dodger in his last outing against the Rockies. And then Jesus Luzardo, another good lefty. Now, if you saw his ERA, he does have an ERA over 4, but he has one of the best expected FIPS in the game. So he's one of the 3 lefties, he's the one that gets the most strikeouts. He's one of the better strikeout pitchers in the game. He already has 200 strikeouts this year. He's in the 85th percentile in K percentage, 84th percentile in whiff percentage. He doesn't get as many ground balls, and he is not as good with his command. So a little bit of a different pitcher. Sanchez, Suarez are a little bit more cerebral, and they're really good with their command and throwing strikes. Luzardo is a little bit different, where he's going to rely on his nasty stuff, try to get strikeouts. He's a little bit, he doesn't have as great of numbers as those 2 guys, but he's still is very nasty. So when you dive into his individual pitch mixes, similarly to the other guys, his fastball, 281 batting average against, and only an 18 whiff percentage. So he doesn't get a lot of whiffs on that fastball. But the pitch that he has that is very good is his sweeper. Again, one of the better pitchers in the game. 167 batting average against, 43% whiff rate. So a ton of whiffs. He also has a good changeup at 244 with a 34% whiff rate. Again, his sinker, 426 batting average against. And then he also throws a slider that's really good too at 177 batting average. So a lot of these Phillies are very similar, and that their fastballs are not good, but their breaking balls and their off-speed pitches are really, really good. Luzardo, again, is a traditional. Righties hit him 260, lefties hit 195. So because of that sweeper, slider that he throws, he is nasty against lefties. Lefties just do not hit him. But righties do hit him at 260, again, because he's not as good with the four-seam fastball. The Dodgers, I do like the matchup against Luzardo because they are the second best team in baseball against four-seam fastballs. They are 3rd in sliders against sliders, so they do, they should be able to, do their best against the slider that he throws, which is super elite. Another guy who has good numbers against the Dodgers in his career, 2.60 ERA in his career against the Dodgers, and he pitched well against them this year in April. He threw 7 shutout innings against the Dodgers. So Shohei's the only one who has a home run against him. So he's pitched well against the Dodgers throughout his career. So home run picks. I'm picking 2 guys you may not expect, Andy Pages, and I'm picking Miguel Rojas. Yes. So Andy Pages has actually been one of the best hitters at home in Major League Baseball this year. He crushes the ball at Dodger Stadium. I like the matchup with Andy Pages because Pages is a guy who there aren't many, one pitches that he struggles against. He hits 280 against fastballs, and then against sliders, he hits 287, and then as well 274 against sinkers. So I'm thinking that he gets a fastball or maybe even a slider out over the plate from Luzardo, and he hits it out. Miguel Rojas is a guy who does not hit too well against four-seam fastballs, 250, which is fine. But then against sliders, he hits 333. And again, another guy who hits really well against left-handers. So I'm thinking that Miguel Rojas, the rare home run that he does hit, is coming on Wednesday against Luzardo. This is the best matchup I like for the Dodgers. Now, it's kind of funny because he has the most electric stuff compared to the other 2 guys, but I do like the fact that prone to walk hitters, and he is prone to kind of have like long innings, and that the Dodgers can capitalize and put up a crooked number against him. So against Blake Snell, very similar to Shohei Ohtani, one of his better pitches is his curveball. Now he's done it a little different this year, where he has used his changeup a lot. So far, Blake Snell is kind of similar to the Philly left-handed pitchers, that his batting average against on his four-seamer is 329, so that pitch has gotten hit really hard. But his changeup, 174 batting average, 46% whiff rate, and then the curveball, 171 with a 45% whiff rate, as well as his slider, which he doesn't throw as much. He really only throws that to lefties, but 250 batting average, 54% whiff rate. So he only throws that pitch at 9% of the time, but the changeup and the curveball have been elite. So Snell is very similar to the Philly pitchers. All of his numbers are really, really good this year. In the 48 innings that he's been out there, 55 strikeouts. So he's getting a lot of Ks, a ton of whiffs. He's got one of the higher whiff percentages in the game, as well as he's not allowing a lot of barrels, hard hit balls, and he's getting a lot of ground balls this year. Sometimes Blake Snell throughout his career has been a little bit of a fly ball pitcher. So far this year, he actually is getting ground balls. So when you're a strikeout pitcher and you're able to get ground balls, that's really useful because ground balls can turn into outs. And then if you're not allowing ground balls, you're getting strikeouts. So he's kind of gone up and down throughout his career of being a ground ball pitcher, fly ball pitcher. So I think that's pretty cool. Right now, he's getting the ground balls. So that's going to help you with double plays, getting out of jams, which Blake Snell is going to be in because he does walk hitters. One of Blake Snell's best pitches has been the curveball. And like I said, the Phillies are 25th in baseball against curveball. So I really like Shohei and Blake Snell against the Phillies lineup because they have 2 really, really good curveballs. And I think he's going to stay away from that fastball, try to get it up in the zone, but he's going to stay away from it because the Phillies do hit fastballs well. And then he's going to also use that changeup, which the Phillies do hit as well. So he's probably going to use a lot of curveballs in this game, as I would imagine. That's pretty much all the info I have for you guys on how the Phillies and how the Dodgers match up. They're actually, believe it or not, kind of similar teams. I wouldn't be surprised if they matched up at some point in the postseason. Obviously, right now the Dodgers are chasing them for the 2 seed. And if the postseason, the way it looked right now, is if that's the way it shapes out in 2 weeks, the Dodgers would probably be the 3 seed playing in the wild card round. They would play either the Mets or the Reds or the Giants or something. If they're able to win that, they would play the Phillies in the division series. So this isn't just valuable that they're trying to catch the Phillies for the 2 seed. It also helps them out that they could get a little bit of familiarity. They're going to see the Phillies' 3 best pitchers. The Phillies aren't going to see Yamamoto, and they're not going to see Glasnow. So that's really good. The Phillies, like I said, similarly to the Dodgers, don't necessarily have the best of bullpens. Now, they do have a shutdown closer in Johan Duran. He is nasty. But other than that, they don't have too many shutdown relievers. A good lineup that is a little bit top-heavy, so that is also kind of similar to the Dodgers. And then they have a really good starting staff, which right now, the last 2 months, the Dodgers have been really good. So 2 really good teams. Again, Dodgers are chasing them for the 2 seed. We'll see if they can get it. Really, what they would need to do is sweep the Phillies to have a real shot. Because if they could sweep the Phillies and get it down to 1.5 games, then you have a realistic shot that if you continue to play good after that, and the Phillies could lose a series, you could actually jump them. And like I said, if the Dodgers are able to win this series and at least tie the season series with the Phillies, then if the Dodgers also tie them in the record, the 2 seed would go to the Dodgers because of the interdivision records. That's how it would go. So I know that's kind of confusing, but the Dodgers winning this series, and then that could help them that they don't have to necessarily pass the Phillies. They could just tie them in the standings, have the same record. The interdivision record thing can really help them. So that is all I have for you guys today. Really, the key of this series will be the Dodgers' bats, because I think that the Dodgers' pitching is going to continue to pitch well. I think that they can, figure out ways to get outs against the Phillies. Like I said, if they can kind of avoid Schwarber and Harper, I think they can pitch around a lot of the other guys. They're a little top-heavy, like I said, and they have some injuries right now. No Trey Turner, no Alec Boehm. If they can pitch around Schwarber and Harper, I think they're going to do good, which I think they will do that. Those guys are just going to take their walks because they're one of the best disciplined hitters in the game. The key will be, what do the Dodgers do against the Phillies pitchers, because those are 3 of the best left-handed pitchers in the game. I actually put this out on my X. In terms of expected FIP in Major League Baseball of all pitchers, they have 3. Those left-handed pitchers are 3 of the top 18 pitchers in the game. I believe Sanchez is 5th, Luzardo is 9th, and then Suarez is 18th. So they have 3 top 20 pitchers that they're going to see in this series. So the key will be, what do the Dodgers' bats do against the Phillies' really good starters? Can they get them out of the game early and get into that bullpen that's not necessarily too dominant? We'll see. So we'll see what happens. I'll be back to recap this series. That will probably be on Friday because of my work schedule. So as always, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed my info and all the stuff that I laid out for you guys. 2 really good teams. This is going to be a fun series. Dodger Stadium is definitely going to be rocking. So as always, thank you guys for listening. You can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talking Blue Nick, and on Reddit, competitive-week 8715. Thank you guys so much for listening. Go Dodgers. We will be back to recap this series.